All right, guys. CombatCast in the house. And we are going to talk about UFC 272 from this past weekend. We're going to talk about this week's upcoming fight night card. We're going to have a little fun at the end and talk about a couple of dream Bellator versus UFC matchups we'd like. And maybe some Stipe and Ty just got announced. But before we do that, let's try this intro video on. Are you a fan of pro wrestling, comedy, and combat sports? Then we have the podcast for you because we cover that and much, much more.
Do you like to debate with your friends? Do we have the perfect segment for you? It's the 531, where we take any given subject, break it down to a top 5. From there, we debate it down to 3, and then into that number 1 spot.
If you want to get a hold of us, find us on our social media, on any major social media platform. And if you want to find the podcast, search for us on any major podcast platform, as well as YouTube.
Working Fans Podcast. We put in the work so you don't have to.
All right, guys, let's talk about some fights. But first, Chevy, tell them we got coming up.
We have coming up UFC Fight Night Volkov versus Aspinall. That's going to be an early card over in London. We're looking forward to that.
Hell yeah.
March 26th, we got Fight Night, UFC Fight Night Blades versus Dukakis. Big heavyweight fight. And another big heavyweight fight. And then on April 2nd, we're going to be previewing UFC 273, Vulcanovsky versus the Korean Zombie.
Okay. Woo. That sounds pretty good. Where's that fight taking place, too?
I'm not sure where that one is. I assume it's going to be in Vegas, but I didn't look that far into it.
Okay, I was hoping for another early pay-per-view. That'd be nice.
We might start seeing those now that the world's opening up a little bit. We got World War III, so COVID's,
COVID's taking
back burner right now. Yeah, so might see some overseas stuff, and here on the East Coast, we're happy to see that.
Absolutely, get us some early shows, whatever it takes.
That's right.
All right, so let's talk about this past weekend's UFC 272. Man, we opened up in the main card with Sergey Spivak versus Greg Hardy. Spivak TKO'd him. Was this surprising the way it went down?
No, I don't think so. Greg Hardy came in. He looked doughy. I guess, yeah, I am a little bit surprised thinking about how this was his last fight on his UFC contract. You would think, he's fighting for an opportunity to sign another contract. You would think he would be putting his best foot forward, coming in shape, but I'm not surprised. He's just not at that level. He hasn't been doing MMA long enough. He's a great athlete, and he has great power, but that's about it, I think. I think we've seen all we're going to see of him in the UFC.
Do you think he lacks the motivation to do what it takes to be the best in this sport?
No, I don't think so. I think, to be, an all-pro player in the NFL, it takes a certain mentality, that doesn't only translate to the NFL. It's a mentality you carry through life, I would assume. So I'm sure he's motivated. It's just, very, very hard to get to that top level.
Yeah.
It takes a lifetime of martial arts training for most people.
Yeah. And I mean, getting thrown to the wolves early can be a curse.
Absolutely. It is. The UFC is not a place that you can come in and learn. Not anymore anyway. You have to already have the tools and the experience to be a top level fighter.
Randy's asking about those thoughts on Kobe Jorge fight. We are going to get there, sir. But first, Kevin Holland Brazilian Cowboy Alex Oliveira. I thought Holland looked good here. He got caught a couple times, but to me, he just showed his toughness, and he turned it on. I thought he looked great with the striking. I think, especially, he looks good at welterweight. Like now that it looks like he's actually committing to this weight class. What'd you think?
I thought he was good. He didn't talk a bunch of shit in the octagon, which I thought was a little bit weird, but he looked calm and, composed in there. He was lucky that when Cowboy got his back, he did those thumbs up.
Yeah.
He was lucky that was the end of the round. That's what kept him safe. But, I mean, he outclassed Cowboy in the feet for sure. Obviously, he finished him. So I do agree. I think welterweight is going to be much better for him, with wrestling being his weakness, not going up against these bigger guys at middleweight.
Right.
That can only help him. So
get the experience at the smaller weight class too.
Although all the best, the top two welterweights are Kamaru, great wrestler, Colby, great wrestler. Yeah. So it's going to be tough once he gets up there. Hazmat.
Hazmat's another one.
Great wrestler.
Actually, a little sidebar we didn't talk about Hazmat. I saw a interview from a few weeks ago, I think it was, or maybe even just recently, with Bisping on Rogan. And they were talking about Hazmat. And Darren Till was talking about training with Hazmat. And it's like he's just a beast. And he's so good on his feet and in the wrestling room. But people don't understand how good his cardio is because we haven't had to see it. But they said just an animal in that aspect, too.
Right. I did hear Chael talking about he saw Hazmat training at the PI, and he said exactly what Bisping said. He looks phenomenal. And, if anyone shows him a little bit of resistance and he has to go into a later round or something, he could even bump it up to another level. So we'll see. He's going to get his opportunity, especially if he beats Gilbert Burns.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then we had Bryce Mitchell versus Barboza. Bryce Mitchell turning it on with the wrestling. That's what I saw here. And I was impressed because Barboza's still a very tough customer. So I am very interested. This is obviously was Mitchell's toughest fight. I'm interested to see where we go next with him.
Right. I was super impressed with Mitchell as well. He dropped Barboza with a left hand. That I thought was the highlight of the fight for him because he showed a skill set I didn't think he really had. I think he's going to get a highly ranked opponent next. He only has one loss. That loss is outside the UFC. I think he's just looking better and better every fight too. So the commentary team was comparing him to Habib. I think it's a little bit early for that.
Oh, yeah.
But he does look very dangerous, high pressure grappling. He's going to be tough to deal with for a lot of fighters in that division.
Yeah. I'd like to see him. I'm looking at this featherweight rankings. Number 6 is Josh Emmett, just sitting out the top 5. I think that might be a good one because Emmett's got that power and he's got the wrestling skills. Yeah, so what's up?
Maybe a Yair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That'd be a step up. That would
be a big step up, but
yeah. Producer
what's up, Joe?
What's up? Randy wants our thoughts on Kevin Lee, Diego Sanchez. I'll do a quick sidebar on that because I don't have a lot of thoughts on it. These are not okay. Diego is a little past. Well, he's past his prime. And Kevin Lee, I think, needs to get his career jump started. So I expect Kevin Lee to be successful there. I don't care how motivated Diego is. He could be motivated. Maybe he makes a fight out of it, and good for him. But Kevin Lee, on his game, should win that fight at this point in their career.
I think this is Kevin Lee's last shot at doing this career. It puts a lot of pressure on him. I don't think he does super well under the pressure. Diego Sanchez is a savage in every aspect of the word. He is absolutely insane. So I don't think he's going to be feeling the pressure.
Okay.
I hope that Kevin Lee wins, but
yeah. You put an interesting spin on it for me, though. We'll see what happens. Dos Anjos versus Moicano. RJ looked good coming back, brother. I thought for sure that he was going to be maybe a little step behind because of all the inactivity. Not so much. This man looks like he's ready to take out some of these guys. I don't know if it's going to be welterweight. This was a catchweight at 160. So I'm kind of curious.
I think he's kind of settled back down to 155, unless Conor comes and wants to fight him at 170 or something like that. I think he's more comfortable at 155 at this point.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. What'd you think?
I mean, we talked about it last week, whether he was going to come back rested or rusty, and obviously it was rested. He looked phenomenal. Moicano put up a good fight. I thought that his corner could have stopped it, or the ref, or the doctor, or anyone could have stopped that fight. Round 3 or 4.
Yeah,
I was really surprised that they let it go to around 5, but Moicano showed in that 5th round that he was still game, and he fought his ass off in that last round. I did feel like RDA maybe was taking a little bit easy on him because he knew he had already won. He didn't want to beat the guy up too bad and, take years off his career or his life. So we'll see what's next for RDA. And I know that he called out the Conor fight. He said he didn't want to fight Fiziev, who was his original opponent, but it kind of makes sense. Fiziev's, quite a bit lower down the ranking. RDA is older, so he doesn't want to be fighting backwards. I'd kind of like to see the Conor fight. I think he beats Conor at 155 and at 170. So
I got one for you. I just think about we're going to talk about Jorge and Covington. I know you said he's comfortable at lightweight, but I bet a money fight with Jorge at welterweight would interest him. And it'd be an interesting matchup because I still think Jorge is a dog on the feet. But I do think Dos Anjos has the wrestling once again to probably not the wrestling to the level of a Kobe, though. So I think it's a more favorable matchup for Masvidal. But I don't know.
He's bigger than Colby,
Yeah.
I mean, RDA is smaller than Colby.
Right. So I think, I don't know. I don't know who I would pick in that one. I think I'd lead Masvidal. I think he's still got something. I know you think he's,
overrated.
Nate Diaz, but I mean, and RDA is talented, but there is a level. Like Masvidal still is a very good fighter. He's just not at that level. I think that we thrusted him in there in the welterweight. He's not a Covington. He's not an Usman. I don't think he's a Burns or a Hazmat, or we're going to find out about Hazmat, but you know what I mean? So, but I think he's right low there still. So it'd be interesting. I think that'd be 2 evenly matched guys if they did that.
RDA has been champ before. I mean, he is a bit older, but so is Jorge. So,
yeah.
I just think that I like Masvidal. I've said this before, but I do think that his skills are overrated. If he gets favorable matchups, he can do very well, but it's hard to knock people out when you're being pressured and you're going backwards. And that's what intelligent fighters who can wrestle are going to do. They're going to pressure him, put him up against the cage, and it's hard for him to knock people out. Now, we'll talk about the Colby Masvidal fight, and all it takes is that 1 second, one slip in those 5 rounds, and you get clipped like Colby did, and he's lucky he didn't get knocked out. He has a great chin, but he did get knocked down, and it was from 1 shot. So he always has that chance. He's explosive. He's accurate. He's very composed, maybe one of the most composed fighters in the octagon. He never looks flustered or nervous, even when he's in uncomfortable positions. Maybe a little bit frustrated, but I think that serves him well. But I'd bet money on RDA, I think, in that fight.
Throw some more here real quick. All right, so obviously we both thought Covington was going to win this fight. So it was what it was. I think we called it. Actually, it was a little more of an exciting fight, I think, than maybe we thought.
He did more striking than I thought he was going to, for sure.
So hats off to that. Joe thought it was a great card overall, which, Joe's a casual fan. So for Joe liked this card, I thought that was pretty good.
That's right.
So I was just thinking, did we ever get Jorge and Leon Edwards?
No, that fight never happened.
Yeah, so that could be something maybe we could see. And in that same vein, too, what do you think about Colby's call of Dustin Poirier?
It's a fight I would certainly watch.
Sure.
It's a big money fight.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. See, the problem is, what do you do with Colby now? Because he's the number one contender. He's shown that he belongs at that spot, but he has 2 losses to Usman, the champ.
Yeah.
So do you give him that third fight, or, what do you do with him? It's hard. So he's trying to figure something out.
Yeah.
That's an option. I know that Dustin said, I saw on Instagram or something, he said he doesn't want Colby to make any money off of him. If he sees him in the street, it's on right there. They're both going to jail or whatever. But it'd be stupid to deny Colby money when really he would be making a lot of money from that fight also.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I like the fight personally, and I'll tell you why, because I think they're both in the same position. Like Dustin had that shot a couple of times at the belt, and he's kind of in limbo. And Colby's kind of in limbo. The question would be, what weight do you do it at? I'm sure Colby would want it at welterweight, but if I was Dustin, I'd push for like maybe a catch weight. But I'd be interested to see like Dustin at welterweight too, just to see how he looks, how he performs.
He looks like he's big enough to fight at welterweight for sure. He's huge.
Yeah, he's a long way from those featherweight days.
Yeah, definitely. He'd never make featherweight now for sure.
No, but I like the fight potentially. I think it gives him something to do. And Dana did say that, Colby, if he keeps winning fights, he's going to have to be in that position to get a title shot again. But, if Hazmat...
Usman said that also. He said it's not outside the realm of possibility. Right. He wants to put a stamp on a victory over Colby. It was too close for him, he said.
Yeah. So the thing is, I think, is just that in the meantime, you do have to keep busy, though. And I think a big money fight with Dustin Poirier, I got no problem with that. I say, put it on. You could put it on pay-per-view for a big card. You can do ESPN, ABC. But I think that would be good in the future.
I think maybe he fights. So we assume Leon Edwards is getting the next title shot, right? Against Usman. Yeah, it's kind of just a real logjam up there at the top, but yeah. I would assume Leon Edwards gets the title shot. He's been waiting. Hamza and Gilbert Burns are going to fight. So maybe Colby fights the winner or the loser. He fights one of those guys next, because I don't think he's fought either one, right? So
that would be, especially if he doesn't I can see with the Dustin fight would be more intriguing for him, because he's obviously got the experience at welterweight. It's a bigger money fight, and he keeps him busy in the meantime. But yeah, if that doesn't happen, I would say the loser of Burns Hazmat, because the winner of that should probably get a title shot. If Burns wins, give him a rematch. And if Hazmat wins, then no question.
Right.
So, well, all right, let's get to this weekend's fight card. Let's start off with the first fight on the main card. Not too familiar with Bruno Silva. It's a name I definitely heard. Bruno Arida do Silva, but he's taking on Alex Pereira. We know about Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira is the guy. He's 4-1 in MMA, but he was an elite kickboxer, and he has 2 victories over Stylebender. What's up, Dirty Heels in the house? Kofi Weedston, thanks for joining in, buddy. Always promoting our shit on Instagram, so we love you guys. But this fight, man, I'm looking at this guy Bruno da Silva too, though. Chevy, he's 22-6.
Mm-hmm.
He's on a 7-fight win streak. 3-0 in the UFC, all finishes, and he has a performance of the night twice. So although we haven't seen much of him, Guess we've been sleeping on his ass because this looks like a very intriguing fight as I read those stats to you now.
The UFC, so the perfect storyline, if you're,
Right.
we're looking, as wrestling fans or whatever, you're thinking the perfect storyline, you build Carrera up to this fight, this mega fight
Right.
with Izzy. So what do? They give him the hardest matchups from someone that people have never heard of.
Right.
Who makes these fights? Like, what are they doing?
Let me see something here, though. Just out of curiosity, this guy's record, like I said, he's 22-6 overall. 19 by knockout, 3 decisions. Okay, so no submissions.
Okay, so they're thinking he's going to strike with a superior striker.
Right. And actually, this guy's 3-0 with knock. So maybe they just like, fuck it. Let's see who the real prospect is here, I guess. But why not try to build 2 prospects?
I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, maybe they don't think Pierre is really going to make it to that level because he was looking a little rough in his first UFC fight. He did end up catching the guy with a flying knee and knocking him out. But before that happened, it didn't look great for him. So maybe they don't really believe he can get to that level, but he currently is a name. We're talking about him. There's a story, so maybe they're hoping that Bruno can steal his hype.
I don't know.
Anyway, it should be an exciting fight, sounds like. Fight of the night bonuses all around.
I make it a little hard to pick a winner. Based on that experience level, I kind of want to go Bruno Silva almost, but I'm on the Alex Pereira hype train. So since I haven't seen enough of Bruno's fights, I'm just going to go with what I know. But, man, reading those stats, it's kind of like we're going to have an interesting one.
Right. I was thinking Bruno until you said that basically all his finishes are knockouts. So I'm going to assume that Alex is a better striker and he probably gets it done via knockout.
Yeah, I think so. That's Randy was asking any underrated fights we're looking forward to next week. I think this one actually.
Chris Moutinho, who fought, he's the green-haired guy who fought Sean O'Malley on short notice. He's on the prelims, I think. So maybe keep an eye out for that one. I don't know if the guy will really amount to much in the UFC, but I'm glad he's getting a second shot after taking a ass whooping.
He's fighting a guy named Guido Canetti, who's on a 3-fight losing streak. So given this performance on short notice, I'd say this is a fight they are actually preparing for him to win. Mm-hmm. We'll see how it goes. Then we got Terence McKinney, who's been beating everybody's ass so far, taking on Drew Dober. Drew Dober, a very tough matchup for anybody, though. Lightweight. What do you got here?
I'm going to go with Terence just because he keeps finishing people in the first round. So until we see that stop, I think I'm going to go with him. I think that Drew will engage with him early too, so I think he's going to get knocked out in the first round again. Keep that hype train going.
I hope you're right. I'm excited about this guy. Then we got Khalil Roundtree back. His last win was September. He had a TKO victory via leg kicks. Mm-hmm. That's always exciting. He's really good with those leg kicks. He's taking on Carl Robinson, the guy I've seen a few times, but he's on a 2-fight losing streak. I feel like these are 2 exciting fighters, but both could probably use the win. Who do you have here?
I'm going to go with Roundtree via TKO, probably early in the second round. I think his Muay Thai is just on another level since he was training in Thailand and has come back. So I think you're going to see him kick the legs early, hurt him, and then maybe, finish him with some punches up top.
I'm going to agree with that. I won't fight you on that one. I think Roundtree's just been looking really sharp those last couple fights. Even the ones he lost, he was looking good. Then we got Sodiq Youssef. First is Alex Carrera. Caceres?
Yep.
Caceres, thank you. Yeah,
Bruce
Leroy.
Bruce Leroy, that's right.
Who's on the biggest win streak of his career. I think it's like maybe 5-6 fights in a row.
He's really rounded out his MMA game for sure.
Yeah, he's been great. I really like this story of him. And Youssef is coming off a loss, but before that, he was undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
He had lost to Arnold Allen in his last fight here by a decision. So actually, no, he had one other loss earlier.
Right. Yeah, earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think Caceres is very well rounded in the experience. I kind of like him in this fight. I think the winning streak keeps going.
I'm gonna agree with you. I think Youssef is a great kickboxer, but I think that Alex is going to take him to the ground and submit him. Probably, I'm going to say in the first round. I think he engages very shortly with stand up, takes him down, and submits him.
There we go. Then we got in the co-main, Mal Moraes, former bantamweight contender, champion in other promotions, who's on a losing streak. I think 3 fights in a row now. Is it? Maybe 4. No, it's 3, but he's lost 4 out of his last 5. And actually arguably lost that one to Aldo in between.
Yeah, he definitely did lose that fight. That was bullshit.
Yeah. Taking on Song Ladong. I feel like Moraes is just, his confidence hasn't been where it should be. People are pressuring him. They find out that he can be broken. And ever since that, I think Cejudo kind of gave the blueprint, actually. And I think Song Ladong, who's on a 2-fight win streak and has had really good fights and performances in the nights, I think he's durable. I think Morales can put some pressure, still fight you in that early round, but I think Song Ladong is going to survive if there is any issues, and I think he's going to finish him in round 2.
I am not a fan of Marlon Moraes. I think he's a quitter.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, I think the Cejudo fight showed that. But I think stylistically, Song Yudong is a good matchup for him because he's going to engage mostly in striking. I don't know. We'll see. He does fight out of Team Alpha Male, right? So he has gradually been working on his wrestling. If he takes a wrestling heavy approach, I think he'll get Marlon tired very quickly, and Marlon will quit. But he's also a great striker, so I think that Song Yudong's going to engage in the striking. He's probably going to get like head kick KO'd or something. I'm going to say early. If the fight goes late, then Song Yudong is going to win via decision, I think.
Okay. Main event, Magomed Ankalaev. Mm-hmm. Taking on Thiago Santos. I want to point out Ankalaev here first. This guy has got performance of the night 3 times, and he's 16-1. His one lone loss, debut in the UFC against Paul Craig, a fight that he was winning, and he lost with 1 second left. He got caught in a triangle choke in round 3, the final round of the fight. This guy's pretty much undefeated, is what I'm getting at. Like, I mean, he got caught. He lost the fight, but he's that good.
An undefeated person named Magomed.
Yeah. This does not look like a fun night for Thiago Santos. Thiago came back and beat Johnny Walker in his last one, but he had 2 knee surgeries at one point.
When he fought John Jones, he tore all the ligaments in both of his knees.
Yeah, and then he came back. He lost 2, and then he just won recently. But I think this is a bad matchup.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Magomed Ankalaev only because his name's Magomed, and like you said, he's basically undefeated. He's very well-rounded, too. He's good standing, unlike, a lot of these Dagestani guys are very wrestling heavy. Well, Magomed, he has great stand-up as well, so he can control where the fight goes, but if he wants to keep it standing, he can. Santos just hasn't looked the same since that John Jones fight. Before that, he was knocking everyone out. He had, Rumble Johnson-esque, knockout power, and he just hasn't really been able to show that. I mean, he beat Johnny Walker, but Johnny Walker blew his shoulder out doing the worm or whatever, and he hasn't been the same since then. So I think I think Santos, although I like him very much, I think he's probably going to lose this fight, and I think he might get knocked out. I'm going to say round 3.
Okay.
I hope not, because I like him. I'd like to see him get back to form, but
yeah, I wouldn't be upset if Thiago pulled off an upset here.
Yeah,
I don't see it, but it'd be fun. Every once in a while, it's good to get those upsets too.
Right, for sure.
All right. Before we get into our final segment, Tai Tuivasa versus Stipe Miocic is set for the works. I think it's the target in July. Man, you got to favor Stipe, I think, based on resumes here. But and he's such a well-complete fighter. But man, I really like this Tai story, and I love Stipe, but I just love this Tai Tuivasa coming back, and I just think he'd be so fun to get a title shot. You know what's interesting, too? I'll throw this wrinkle in there, too. They're still working on his contract with Francis Ngannou, and nothing's been settled yet. It's probably possible that Francis could be out of the company by then, and this could be like for the vacated world championship.
I don't think he will be out, only because I think I remember something about how his contract, it ran for an extra year, even though that was his last fight, just because he's a champion or whatever. Obviously, he'll sit that whole year out because he has to have knee surgery or something.
Okay.
So I don't think that he'll be out of the company, but if he hasn't signed a deal by then, we'll know he's probably not coming back. They might do an interim title before that, but they'll be the interim champion until Francis vacates, I think. So
I'll agree with Randy. Tai could catch him, and I think that's the exciting part about this fight. But you do have to favor Stipe, I would think.
Right. Tai's wrestling is not very good. His cardio is good for someone that has to cut to 265, but Stipe has great cardio.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing you have to worry about is Stipe's been knocked out more recently. It's heavyweight, so it happens. But he is also getting older. He's inactive, and he's, in fight years, he's old. So father time comes for you in that octagon, and all of a sudden you're a shell of what you used to be. So that could happen at any fight for him. So I would actually assume that Tai will probably win this.
Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, I'm kind of pulling for it, but I don't know. I'm not as confident, but yeah, I think there are makings for an upset. So, all right, let's finish up. Mr. Randy Osgood, you wanted this segment. So we only had time. We had to rush a little bit, so just a couple fights. So we might even do this again down the road. But I had 2 particular fights that I came up with that were most interesting to me. One was the middleweight, because we kind of talked about this last week. I think it was Gegard Mousasi at Bellator. He might very well be the best middleweight in the world. He's a complete fighter. He just does it all. He's so experienced, and he's looked better as time went on. And you got Stylebender, who has just been almost flawless when it comes to striking, and no one's been really able to touch him at middleweight. There's been a few people that made it competitive, but he keeps getting better and better and working on his skills. Mm-hmm. I think this would be the most interesting matchup if we ever do promotion versus promotion in terms of elite. Like, this is the one I would want to see. I think you had the hot take of Gegard when we were talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd still go Stylebender, but I wouldn't be surprised. I think it's a pick 'em. I think it's definitely like whoever's going to be able to force their game plan. I would not be shocked if Mousasi shut him down, but I would be very interested to see. Obviously, they're both going to weigh the same technically, on the scales. But if Gegard came in looking a little bigger, I think that almost might be the key to success.
Right, he could wear on Izzy a little bit. So because Izzy he's not heavy, but he's tall. He's big even for middleweight. So I think if Gegard decided, if this fight ever happened, if Gegard decided that he was going to be intelligent and not just let his ego show and try to strike with Izzy. If he did just enough striking to get in close and go for takedowns, he's so much better on the ground. He's bigger. I think he just kind of big brother him around once it got to the ground, and Izzy would be in trouble. Now, if they were in a kickboxing match, if it turned into a kickboxing match, I'd favor Izzy. Gegard has great stand-up. I think he could hang with him, but I think he'd get outpointed.
Yeah, I mean, Izzy did pull that triangle at one time against Kelvin Gastelum, but Gegard's bigger than Kelvin too. So
yeah, but, way bigger.
What's that?
Way bigger. Gastelum should be fighting at welterweight.
Yeah.
Gegard knocked out Mark Hunt at heavyweight. So
yeah. I don't think he's tapped him out, but
he tapped him out. He
beat a heavyweight.
Yeah,
he beat Mark Hunt. Yeah.
He beat one of the best heavyweights. Yes.
Absolutely. So the other matchup that was interesting, but interesting is for done at different reasons. AJ McKee, featherweight, undefeated, champion, great prospect. However, this is the difference. Like this division, the UFC featherweight is so effing stacked. I mean, the champion Vulcanovsky, Alexander, that's the one I was thinking here. Obviously, champion versus champion. But man, if you go just a guy below right now, you're talking about Max Holloway. You go a guy below that, you're talking about Brian Ortega. You got a little bit of that, you're talking like what? Yair Rodriguez. I don't know if AJ McKee can beat any of those guys I just mentioned. So, but
right, Volkanovski is not even the best featherweight in the UFC,
Right.
So he's the champ, but he lost he won some shitty decisions. So,
yeah, I mean, I feel that way, kind of like we weren't gonna do this one, but like Sergio Pettis as the bantamweight champ. Like, I'm happy for him. It's great, but you ain't beating Jan. I don't think you're beating Sterling either.
Not beating TJ
or TJ. Any of these guys.
I don't think you beat Dom. I think Cruz would beat him.
Yeah, absolutely. So Aldo, this is so.
Aldo,
yeah. So when you get to those weight classes, for whatever reason, I just feel like the UFC shines. Now, Patricio Pitbull, the one that's the lightweight champ, he obviously would be a little bit of a different story, but even him, I don't know. Like, I don't necessarily think he beats Gaethje or Oliveira.
He beat Chandler, so
he did. I don't know if that happens every time out, but you know what I mean? Yeah. So,
I agree. I'm with you.
Caught him. But yeah. So, this could be a lot of fun to see some of these matchups, but really, honestly, like we were talking off air too, like the wrestling of Bader maybe against Ngannou. But Jesus, man.
Take Francis out of it. Assume he's gone. Like a matchup against let's say Stipe wins or Tai. Yeah. Like, I think that's a pretty good matchup. His wrestling is,
he would be good
against next level.
Yeah, he's size wise, he's not undersized against Stipe. Those could be some fun matchups. Sure, I would agree with that.
It's like having a slightly, diminished Daniel Cormier.
Right? Yeah, because I mean, he didn't do so well against some of the light heavyweights at UFC when we're talking like Rumble, Cormier, and that upper echelons.
I think he's grown since then, though.
Yes, yeah. But I would not like his matchup against. I just don't think he's taken down Ngannou, and I think he's getting worked.
He's getting clipped on the way in, for sure.
So, all respect to a lot of the Bellator fighters. There's some great ones out there, and I think some of them would do well. But just these particular matchups we're talking about now. I mean, the light heavyweight, I don't know much about Nemkov, but he seems to be impressive. He's got some wins. He beat Bader. I think he would do fine against Glover. Might even be able to beat Glover. Glover's an older man, but still.
Again, Glover's not even the best fighter in his weight division in the UFC.
I don't think so either. Yeah. So. I think, and that's always been my thing with the UFC versus Bellator comparisons. Like, there's some great Bellator champions and fighters, but it's the depth. The depth of the UFC is what makes everything different. We've been to Bellator cards. There's fun little fight cards in that thing. But if you look at the records, it's 2-2 versus maybe 3-1.
They have losing record fighters. on those cards, So
Whereas in the UFC, we have guys with either, like 20, 30 fights or guys with less fights maybe, but they're like ranked already. It's like, it's the best of the best all the way down. Even these cards that we're complaining about because it's so oversaturated, there's still a bigger depth in this company than any company that I can see, at least in North America.
absolutely.
Yeah. On that note, I guess let's just tell the people what we got coming up.
All right. Let's see. We have. Sorry, let me pull it up here. March 19th, UFC Fight Night, Volkov versus Aspinall. That's going to be in London. That'll be an early card, which we're looking forward to.
Hell yeah.
March 26th, UFC Fight Night, Blades versus Dukakis. So that's 2 heavyweight fight nights in a row. We're getting either very boring very, very boring, tired 5-round fights, or we're going to see some exciting knockouts. And then April 2nd, we got UFC 273, Vulcanovsky versus Korean Zombie. I am excited for this. I think matchup-wise, that's going to be a very good fight.
Yeah,
Two super tough guys.
Zombie training with Cejudo, though we both said it's probably a little too late in the career with not enough time to make that difference. Zombie is a guy I think he's game to fight, and he's always prepared. Is he evolved?
He's durable also. I think that's going to be important, his durability against Volkanovski.
Size-wise, too. What kind of game plan did they come up with?
Hopefully he's learning a bunch of takedown defense. He can nullify Volkanovski's takedowns, and maybe Volkanovski will get a little bit tired, yeah. And then Korean Zombie can work him on the stand-up. We'll see. I think that's going to be a good matchup.
It would be excited if Zombie pulls off the upset and we got Zombie versus Holloway for the title, just stylistically.
That's a tough matchup for Max. I think Zombie's very tough for him because of his durability, and he has great cardio too. So,
yeah. All right, guys. That's going to be it for this week. This was a fun episode. We ended up going almost 42 minutes. That's pretty good. We thank you. Great time to be a fight fan, and we'll see you next time.